Our next guest on this week's show is a person who hits somebody in the face for a living really, really, really hard.
Yeah, like about as hard as it
Extremely hard.
gets.
Really hard in the face. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Emmet.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing the show, sir.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Absolutely.
Sorry it didn't work out the other night.
Oh, man, that was completely our fault, man.
It was a nightmare.
Thank you so much for
welcome.
doing the show. I can't thank you enough, man. So I just want to kind of jump right into it because I am very anxious to see you fight again. And I know you've mentioned that you want to fight on the New York card November 2nd, right?
Yep.
How are we looking? How are we looking?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's two people I want to fight. Like I said, I want to fight anyone in the top three. So I think Volkanovski's number one. He's getting the shot at Holloway. So the other two, you guys can figure out who those guys are in the top three.
Process of elimination.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. That's the soonest I'd want to fight is November 2nd at MSG. But I think we're kind of looking closer to December. Still trying to work on opponents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it'd be cool though, because if I don't fight on that November card, which I'm okay with, I'll fight. December 14th. That's the big Vegas card. Like their end of the year, New Year's card, but it's a lot sooner. I think just because of the ESPN deal. You know what I mean? It used to be right around New Year's Eve, but this is like 2 weeks before.
God,
but I'm cool with that because it's a quick flight from Sacramento, and it would just give all my friends and family an excuse to go out to Vegas.
So when you're sitting down with your management team like you did, right? Like, is this a group of people who are also MMA fans and they just, like, can you sit and you talk like, we want you to fight this guy, and you're like, no, I want this guy or this guy, and you, like, how does that negotiation go? Or is it even a negotiation? Like, what's it like to sit down and talk to your management?
So much like, we were just kind of talking about, because I have one fight on my contract left, so we're talking about negotiation as far as like where they think I'll fall into like the pay scale. But we already know who we want to talk to. So fight. So my manager will talk to Shelby, and he's trying to kind of wrangle up these guys that he wants me to fight, and it's what I want. So we'll kind of see if that falls into play. But my management team, they're awesome. It's Ballingy Group, so they were predominantly into MLB and NFL agents, and they just recently, maybe within a few years ago, they got into MMA, and they're the ones that did the Nate and Connor fight.
Oh,
and
snap!
Silva and Nick fight.
Damn.
Yeah, so they're awesome,
Yeah.
And there's only like 10 of us that are managed by them, and they have like big name guys, and I'm the only featherweight, so it's I just can't say enough good things about them.
Nice.
That's fucking awesome. Hey, so you don't hear a lot of people talk about their losses, and you talked about the whole process of how you felt physically after the Jeremy Stevens loss. What, after feeling that way, because I got punched in the face very recently.
He did. Yeah.
Actually,
a couple days ago.
A couple days ago. And like, I don't want to ever get punched in the face ever again. But you're saying this the feeling you had, you woke up nauseous for weeks and a month and things like that. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, it was just the vertigo, and the only reason why I was talking about it a lot too, because when I was getting prepared for the Johnson fight, it's like that's all anyone wanted to talk about. They didn't want to talk about Johnson and I fighting. It was all about how are you feeling, your facial fractures, your vertigo. So I just talk about it. But yeah, it was bad. You know what I mean? Like, besides just like the fractures and all the stuff I sustained in the fight, which healed over time, but it was just the vertigo. I've never experienced anything like that, and it was just a shitty, a shitty, like, every day I'd wake up, you know what I mean? And it felt like the ground was moving. Just think of like when you're hammered and you lay down and the room's spinning, you need to put one foot on the floor, you know what I mean? It's like that, but
by the way, that doesn't work.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. It's just a myth, so I'll just throw it out there. But it's like when you're drunk and you're laying on the ground and the room's spinning, you're going to get up and throw it. That's what it felt like. all the time. And when I would sit up, and the same type of thing, but it was like intensified, and I just didn't know if it was ever going to go away or when it was going to get better. And I see people or hear people talk about that they experience this type of thing like every day for years.
Oh my God.
I don't know how the hell people deal with it. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. It's a miserable thing to go through, but you know, I got better, and here we are.
That's so crazy. You had such a strange life you live, Josh, because you'll go through that and it's a nightmare, but you're going to get in the cage and try and do that to somebody else. Like, you don't want them to experience that afterwards, but your job is to put somebody's lights out.
And that's the thing with me. It's like, you know, at the end of the day, I hope that myself and my opponent can go home,
right?
You know, injury free to our families or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's me or him, and you know, I'm going with me every day, every time.
So you went from wanting to be a cop, right? You wanted to initially be a police officer.
Well, there was only two things I ever wanted to do. You know, be a police officer or a pro athlete when I was a little kid, and it was kind of. I knew I was going to pursue MMA, and that was just kind of if it didn't work out for me, I'd have something to fall back on, and you know, the MMA. You know, worked out pretty well, and we're still going.
Yeah,
yes, it did.
So you never call out your opponent after a fight, right? I've never heard you say, "I want, you know, Conor McGregor, you got everything. I'm coming for you." You've never had that, you know. And do you think that's ever going to change? Do you think at some point you're going to start saying, "You know what? I got to start calling people out in this day and age. I got to start calling some of these people out."
I guess, you know what I mean, but to everything I've always got on the mic and asked for the UFC or like, you know, verbalize what I want, I never get. So I figured, why call out someone? They're probably not going to give me who I want anyway. So it's kind of this thing. I say I want anyone in the top three. So there's two guys that I want to fight, and you know, it's
and you still won't say their names.
Still won't say their names.
No, so you guys can
right
ranked in the top three.
Yeah, we know. We want to hear you say their name.
Top three, we got. Let me see here.
Espejo's on it.
But you know what? Like, you do seem to just have that nice. I don't know if I saw it on a post or I read it, but somewhere. A fan in England, I think, like drove 4 hours. They were like a huge fans just to get a picture, and you took them out to lunch, or you took them out to.
Yeah, my wife and I we went to Europe, did this crazy Europe trip for 3.5 weeks, and there's this kid Zach. He's from Birmingham, I think that's what it's called, and his dad, like, I guess follows me on Instagram and stuff like that. He's always messaging me. He buys like all my shirts, and like his son is my biggest fan. He says he like plays me in the video game, does all this stuff, like does these backflips, and like always like pretending to be me. And so he was just saying a long time ago, he's like, if you guys ever make it to England, you know, let us know. And I was like, yeah, my wife and I want to come out there sometime. I said my wife has family in Bristol. She's been out there before, but then like. It was just kind of a spare. It was just a 2-week notice before the fight. I booked this big trip, and he's surprised. He hit me up saying something about good luck, and I said, "Hey, I'm actually coming into London.
No way!"
Like in 4 days, and he's like, "Oh, there's no way." He's like, "No way. Will you? Is there any way we can come up and get a picture with you?" You know, he's like, "Let me know so I can, you know, get the day off from work, and I'll surprise my son Zach." And I was like, man, if he's going to drive 4 hours one way, come take a picture with me. I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen. So I said, just come up here. And then, you know, we took him out to lunch, and we just hung out with him for, you know, most of the afternoon.
That is so damn cool.
I bet you made his month. You made his year.
He was so excited, man.
Yeah.
It was cool to see. And he was like speechless. I wish we could have filmed, you know, like surprise him. He saw me, and he was just like, just stuck, you know, and he just ran up to me, never met before, give me a big hug, and gave my wife a big hug. It was, and he was just he was just sitting there, and his dad was like, he's really outgoing. He's not like this. But,
he was probably looking for Ashton Kutcher. He was waiting for Ashton Kutcher to come out.
Yeah, right.
He's like, am I being punked right now? What's going on?
Yeah, so it was cool, man. Like I always said before too, with, you know, I'm still a huge fan of MMA. Like, I had my favorites. I was a fan of all these fighters. I know what it feels like to be a fan and want to get a picture or
Right.
talk to someone. So it's like I'll do that all day, like take pictures, sign stuff, and even when I do my open workouts and stuff, I when I was in Orlando when I fought Stevens, like we did our open workout, and I told everyone like I'll be right back. I had to grab something out of the back, and they probably thought I was like not coming back, but I came back and I literally talked to every single person, was giving shirts away, taking pictures, and even the UFC staff, they're like, we've never seen anyone stay that long, especially like how I was feeling. It was a few days before I weighed in, and I was like, man,
That's
this
huge.
is why I'm here.
That's
Like this is what I
huge.
want. This is my work, but it's like
Right.
it's not work. It's like this is what I've been like pursuing and struggling and chasing, and I'm nowhere near where I'm going to go. And yeah, so it's just a process. I love it.
It's funny that you mentioned you're an MMA. Like I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
Like I'm a fan too. Like us, we're fans. We're
Like, this
shit.
is
We're
huge
talking
for
to you
us.
right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
We're like this is too. We're talking to Josh Emmet. That's super cool for us. So like the fact that you understand that and you're like, man, I'm a fan too. That's got to be awesome just to be able to be on the other side of that of the table and still maintain that being humbled as you are right now.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. It's like, all right, I've been in the UFC for 3.5 years, or a little less than that. I was fighting on the regional scene. I was still a big fan. Like, I'm the exact same. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny though. But people that know me, like my close friends and family, I'm the exact same. I will never change. But it's like people, their perception changes of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember I went to Illinois. My grandpa and like some of my uncles and cousins are from this like podunk little town, Chatsworth. It's like 90 minutes south of Chicago. And I went there to visit my grandpa, and I'm at their local bar with my cousins and uncle, and this guy's like, Josh Emmet, what are you doing in Chatsworth? I'm like, visiting my grandpa. He's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, hanging out with my cousins. And it's just weird.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, fuck, what are you doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
Having a beer.
Dude, if you stop fighting, then you should just get a job as Conor McGregor's freaking PR person because you're doing it right. Well, that guy's fucking up. Crazy.
So
Right.
so right now, you've been in the UFC for 3 years. You were on the regional scene. Has there been anybody that you ran into that you're like that they're like, oh, like an MMA fighter that you were a fan of that they're like, holy shit, it's Josh Emmet?
Well, I guess when I went down to Rio to corner Clay when he fought BJ Penn, I was always a big fan of BJ Penn. I've never met him before, but Clay's always super cordial and cool with like his opponents and stuff like that. So one of the media days, he came up to me and we shook hands and he's like, "Oh man, I've been watching you for some time. You're doing really good." So that was kind of cool. From like he's like a Hall of Famer, a legend, and he's I'm still a big fan of him, always have been. And he's telling me like, "Oh, you're doing really well. I've been watching you for a while." That's kind of crazy. I don't know, but other than that, like I'd say that was probably like the most, I guess, like well-known fighter. Like obviously, like anyone that fights will kind of. We know each other, know of each other, but that was kind of cool.
So when you're not in a fight camp right now, right?
No, we were traveling around Europe, eating and drinking our way.
That's what I was just going to ask you. So what do you like when you're out of a fight camp? Do you like I want to drink a beer? I'll drink a beer whenever I want to. I want to go eat this. You just eat whatever the fuck you want to all the time, or you just kind of like on a strict diet, like just in case someone hits you up.
No, man, I love to eat. That's like one of our like my passions, like traveling, like eating good food, having like good wine, good cocktails, good craft beer. So yeah, when especially right after the fight, like I'll go back in the gym and I'll help teammates and stuff that are getting prepared for fights. But I won't do like 2-3 practices a day. I'll do one and maybe lift or hit mitts or do something kind of light. But yeah, been kind of on a 4-week binge. I was when we were in Europe, my wife and I we drank more in the last 3.5 weeks than I have in the last 3 years. You know what I mean?
That's the Europe way. That's the Europe way. They're like 16-year-olds are drinking over there in Europe.
Yeah, no, that's what it's crazy. I think the drinking age is 16, and they don't card in certain countries, and so there's like kids that are like 14. When we went to Spain, and it was like Ibiza was just insane. All these kids doing like whippets and like on something like they were on something else I've seen before. Like it was kind of like just people sloppy all over the place.
That's
Ibiza.
Ibiza.
I wonder how many people die here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just because it was pretty bad. But could you imagine if people are down in Anaheim, like 15 years old, able to go to the bars? It's crazy enough, right?
God.
I don't think they need to.
No.
Like
Yeah.
we live here in
Go wherever
Anaheim.
you want.
Yeah, we live in Anaheim, so
But
No,
speaking
that's
of
what I'm
that,
saying.
yeah.
but speaking of that, what was that anonymous bar? What was that thing? That seemed like the coolest
Oh, yeah.
bar.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was in Prague.
Okay,
So
was it a
we,
speakeasy?
What's that?
Was it like a speakeasy? Like you had it hard to find?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was hard to find. Like I actually some local told us about it.
Okay.
So we went down this street. We couldn't see it, and I was looking on like my GPS, and it was saying we were right here. So we had to like go down this weird ass like it was like no lights, just little alleyway, and they had absolutely no lights. So I'm like walking up. I'm like, I think this is it, but it looked closed. And then we walked in. It's all dim, and it was just like all the anonymous, like the Guy Fawkes, right? Mask and
yeah.
that's who it is, right? Guy Fawkes,
Yeah,
And
from that movie, yeah.
it was crazy. So you go in there, they give you like the menu. Okay, so you order your first drink, and then after you order your first drink, they come over and give you this black light, and so you shine it on the menu, and that's like it opens up these certain specialty drinks that you can order. You have to order at least one drink, so then you can order those. And like I got the Wilson, so it came in like a volleyball with the. It was crazy. It was, and literally with like we had the mask.
Hey, are you talking about the mask from V for Vendetta?
Yeah. That's with the little mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and they had all these like famous paintings and stuff, but they had all the Guy Fawkes masks on them, like the Mona Lisa with it.
Right.
And, like,
Crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was probably the coolest bar I've ever been
It
to.
sounds like it.
Dude, it was fucking awesome.
I need to go.
Yeah.
All right, hey, what's
That's
that? What,
our favorite part of Prague.
Oh, right on. It looked like the best part, dude. I want to go there so bad.
what's that top three? Give me that top three.
Is Alexander, Brian Ortega, and Jose Aldo.
Oh, shit. God, he wants to,
He wants.
you want to fight those guys?
Yeah. At least he said yeah.
He's like, yeah.
Of course, closer. Like, I don't know. I feel like I was right there before I was 4. I had like a small hiccup, and then it's like I'm right back on track. And it's,
Right.
I don't know. Like the rankings, they don't mean anything to
Yeah,
me.
right.
The
Agreed.
UFC manipulates those. It's like, how do I was ranked 9 before I fought Mirsad. He was 10, and then I think the day we fought, they changed the rankings, so I was 10, he was 12. And then I win, and I move down in rankings. I'm like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
They're like trying to push me out of the rankings. Doesn't matter who I beat.
So if you
Keep getting those KOs,
If
and it's
you
not
would've-
going to matter.
Yeah, I know.
if you were to make a choice between Jose Aldo and Brian Ortega, which one would you want to fight?
Whoever says yes, honestly, either one of them. You know what I mean? Like I think so. From talking from like kind of going back to what we were talking on, like Aldo. So huge fan of the sport. I've watched him forever. This would be the first person that I would, if we were to fight, that I was a fan of, and I loved watching him fight. I still do. You know what I mean? So it would be kind of crazy to think like I'm standing across the cage from Jose Aldo. He will be a future Hall of Famer. I still believe one of the greatest featherweights of all time.
Right? Yeah.
So it'd be
Especially with Uriah Faber in your corner, I'm sure.
Yeah.
After all that.
Yeah, no, it'd be amazing. You know, and we've had, Chad Mendes fought him twice. Uriah fought him once. It'd be amazing to fight him. And, I get a win over him like that. There's only, what's my next fight? You know what I mean? I think if I were to fight Ortega or Aldo, I get the win.
Yeah.
There's nothing left for me. I'm fighting the winner of Holloway, Volkanovski.
Yep.
I want something that's getting me closer to the title. I'm older for this sport. I don't have all this time. They've never given me easy fights or fights they think I'm going to win. And I just go in there and prove them wrong. And I feel like I'm just still I still haven't even scratched the surface or got to show the world or you guys what I'm capable of. So
we've been watching what you're capable of.
I think I see what you're capable of.
those-
God damn, dude.
You're talking about
Absolute
but I
fucking
still feel
pain.
like it's not like, I don't know, it's all coming together. And I feel like I'm coming in my own now. And I still have, even though I'm 34 years old, I got into this later. I've only took damage in one fight. And, yeah.
We can't wait.
You mentioned that you had an agent. Now, is your agent sets up all your fights?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
he's doing all like the negotiation with Sean and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Do UFC fighters ever come up to you personally, like other UFC fighters, and say, "Hey, do you want to fight?" And at this point, you're saying that you want to fight Ortega or Aldo. Is it kind of just it's either those two or no one else?
no, if you think about it too, everybody has. If you look at the top 10, everyone has a fight book. Those are the only two that don't have fights.
Right.
Mm.
Okay.
And so it's like, and with my time frame, like I do want to get one more before the year is up. I think Vegas would be an awesome card, a big pay-per-view card, especially if I got one of those names. You know, both phenomenal fighters, super dangerous, some of the best in the world, but I believe I'm best in the world too. So
Let's
Yeah.
get
at
it.
least, give me my shot. You know what I mean?
Let's get
Hell
it.
yeah.
Hey, so you train at your Rio Faber's gym, and he just recently came back and had a fantastic knockout in his comeback fight. Do you see him continuing to go on, or was this just a hey, how you doing, going back to retirement type of thing?
No, I think Uriah's always super active. He's always in the gym more than some of the pros, and he's I think it's just if he sees how much money's involved now in the UFC, he's always been at the top. So I think he's just kind of looking for fights that excite him, or where there's like really like big money fights. You know what I mean?
Do you think he's fighting before the end of the year as well?
Possibly.
Damn.
Okay, we might be on another card together.
Damn.
Oh,
shit.
shit.
You
I mean,
never
it's
know.
happened
You know,
before.
if he's approached with the right opponent opportunity, like I don't think even though there's so many like tough up and comers, even if you look in his weight division, it's like, but he wants to fight the big name guys. You know what I mean? So even though there's guys could be ranked, super high, in the top 5 or top 8, whatever it is, if it's not like a big name guy, he doesn't want to take that fight because he is the face. He's a big name guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, we'll see kind of what happens.
So on a side note with that, because you brought up both Chad and Uriah. Number one is Chad. Do you think Chad's done? And then number 2, did Uriah sell you a house?
No, Uriah did not sell me a house.
I'd ask.
He didn't sell me a house, but my best friend's a realtor, and
Oh, there you go.
he hooked us up.
Okay,
But
nice.
yeah, Chad, I think he is done.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to fight anymore. He's
Hunting.
doing really well with his fins and feathers business, and that's like a passion and a hobby of his. The guy's like, he loves to hunt, and he gets to go on these huge, excursions and do what he loves and make a ton of money. You know? And he just had a baby girl, and I think, and they bought a new house. I guess you say upgraded even more, and it's just he's truly living the dream, man.
Hell
So
yeah.
we all,
He's like
all
later.
following those
Exactly.
steps in a few years.
Yep,
man.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, shit. I cannot thank you enough for doing this interview,
Yes,
man.
dude.
We've been doing this show for 2.5 years, and you're somebody we've always wanted to get on the show.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for doing the show here today. Congratulations on all your accomplishments so far. Good luck in this upcoming fight. Hopefully you get one of the top 3. My personal opinion, I want to see you fight Aldo.
Aldo.
I want to see you fight
Just
Aldo.
because it's an team alpha male grudge.
That's,
like
I know there's no.
See, that's the thing too. I don't have any grudge or anything against.
But I bet Chad and Uriah would like to.
But the UFC will create a good story.
No-
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
But shit, man. Again, we cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you.
Ladies
so
and gentlemen, Josh Emmet.
much.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, anytime you guys hit me up.
We definitely
Absolutely.
will.
Definitely
Thank
will.
you so much, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
Anytime.